second.
I know, second's better than the first.
Than the first.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
no, I need her to ask about crime first.
Oh, that good?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's my
I knew y'all were up to no good.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you gotta be friends with people, you
Okay.
gotta questions. Technically,
Yeah.
technically.
That was a bad week.
Good morning. Sorry to keep you all waiting. My allergies are messing with me. Yeah, I had to take a Claritin real quick and make sure I already sound like Medea in the morning, but I'm like, man, I don't want to sound like be too bad. But good morning again. This is just another opportunity that I want to make sure that we maintain really in the new year. Every Wednesday, wanting to make myself available to you all to answer any questions that you may have, given the existing conditions in the city, not just today, but any day in terms of weekly activity. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John, and you can walk us through any questions.
Starting with Mike Pearlstein, WWL, and we'll go from left to right.
Thanks. Good morning, Happy New Year to you, Mayor.
Good morning.
Kind of a multi-part question involving the NOPD. Some fairly sweeping changes at the top command of NOPD announced yesterday by Chief Woodfork. So the question is, what's your reaction to those changes? How much input did the Mayor's office and City Hall have in those? And then what is the process and timeline for the national search for a permanent police chief?
So on I'll take the first part of your question. As it relates to the promotions that happened on yesterday, yes, it was in consultation with me directly. And I would say, as I operate with my public safety team, consultants that I've brought on board, wanting to maintain the levels of improvements that we've seen over the past 6 months, wanting to maintain that moving into not only the new year, but with new leadership in place, wanting to make sure that we're maximizing, we're putting the right people in the right place to maintain the recommendations and the implementation of the recommendations that were birthed really through an assessment of our department, and of course engaging our officers in that, but with the focus on our redeployment strategies, making sure that we're doing the best that we can to have all hands on deck. Making sure that we have officers, we placed all commissioned officers for the most part who were in special ops, putting more on the street in every district, but more importantly, focusing on where we know crime is occurring throughout the city. So just making sure that we have sound and solid leadership in place under the new superintendent to ensure that our improvement strategies are being implemented fully and that we continue to be and stay on the right path to making our city safer.
Well, the second part of that question was what's the process and timeline for the search for
Okay.
permanent?
So in regards to the superintendent search, we are still, and I am still, working with identifying a company and or a consultant or a partner in that regard. The first one, I started to do the outreach with my administration really prior to announcing the interim superintendent with PERF. What I do know after communications with them, it's really unlikely that they will take on that role for the city of New Orleans. So we're engaging another administration in terms of organization relative to during law enforcement searches around the country. So it's yet fully defined. When that happens, you will truly be the first to know, but it's still a work in progress.
WGNO and then Fox 8.
Kind of piggybacking on Mike's first question, we learned yesterday that a couple of NOPD captains were demoted to lieutenant and then subsequently some retirements. being that NOPD is short-staffed, are you all worried that this will be a trend that some higher-ranking officers will leave the department or retire?
Well, first off, we do have a number of officers that are eligible for retirement, and that we continue and have seen, as throughout the year, it's a normal process. People retire. Clearly, with shifts in terms of leadership shifts or promotions, we've seen officers go ahead and retire. But we have to remain a department that demonstrates growth, that promotes leadership from within, that has a demonstrated track record of tapping leaders within our department that have, again, demonstrated their ability to implement recommendations that we're moving forward within our department to ensure that we have more boots on the ground, that our strategies are fully not only being implemented, that we're seeing results from the plans that are put in place. And so anytime, when you have shifts, it's really an opportunity to be better and to just get greater every single day. And that's what we strive for, and that's the path that we're on.
Fox 8.
Happy New Year, ma'am.
Happy New Year.
So just crime in general, I mean, the start of the new year has been pretty violent. In
it
fact, in
has.
the last 24 hours, we had 9 people shot. What are your thoughts on what's going on with crime? I know that we heard from Mr. Pichardo at one of the last press conferences, and he said things were going well. The end of the year looked like it was going to be a good December, and then we had a lot of crime at the end just before the new year, and it really started again violent. What are your thoughts about what's going on right now and what needs to be done?
Well, first of all, we know that this violence impacts all of us. Definitely close to home, in our neighborhoods and the like. And I say close to home because I'm not leaving myself out of that equation. It impacts us all, our families, even our pets, for the most part. Although we ended 2022 with fewer murders than anticipated. Close to 6 months ago, we were hearing rumblings from think tanks, that New Orleans would be over 350, close to 400 murders. One is too many, but we definitely ended the year not with that. Thank God for that. However, we have seen just that uptick from the end of 2022 going into 2023, and even with 3 murders that were found in Gentilly on yesterday, that will now be, once they go through the process, will go towards day records for 2022. And understanding that and still going under investigation, but we believe that those individuals were in that home for over a week period, where our officers had to put on the right gear, and equipment to go and identify and to address what they found. It shook that community of Gentilly, no doubt, and a close-knit community. And so the impacts of the violence that we're seeing is it's something that we should not tolerate. I know that the men and women of the New Orleans Police Department continue to just be out there and, of course, engaged and getting guns off the street and making solid arrests. They're doing everything possible. But it really is one that we have to, as a community, all stakeholders affiliated with fighting crime in our community, violent crime, keeping this city safe. Now is really the time. It's been the time, but now more than ever, because we see how we started the year. We do not want this to progress at all. It would also require support from the community based on police practices that are deployed in terms of our strategies of combating violent crime in our city. Let our police officers do their job, and making sure absolutely that they remain focused on constitutional policing practices without a doubt. But we have to ensure that they have the tools and resources that they need, and that has been a priority of my administration, and even that we're seeing growing on the ground with them, and even more to come. But my heart just really goes out, to our community overall, to our families that are impacted by violent crime on both sides, But it's going to take that comprehensive approach. We see even still our juveniles connected to many of these incidents in our community. It's going to take, again, the wraparound services, but also us being tough on crime and being able to withstand any pushback or blowback as it relates to being tough on crime. But again, staying aligned with constitutional policing practices. But it seems to be this lack of consequences for the actions that we're seeing on the street, not only from our young people, from adults as well. But I'm committed to a comprehensive approach. I'm committed to working with all stakeholders relative to that criminal justice system, working so that we can not only take these criminals off the street, in which NOPD, they're working hard and doing, we're seeing the results of that. But we have to sit people down. They need to stay off the street. And we know that just doesn't end with the New Orleans Police Department. So I'm willing and ready to work together to ensure that people stay off. The violent criminals are held accountable for their actions, and that's what needs to happen in our city.
Matt Sledge and then Cassie Sherman.
Yeah, Mayor, Happy New Year. Multiple outlets have reported that the FBI is investigating your stylist purchase of clothes on your behalf. What can you tell us about how your stylist got paid for those clothes and who is paying for them?
So that is under investigation by the FBI, in which I'm not affiliated directly. I know that that's moving through that process, and I know that I'm open to any investigations that involve me and or people that work with me and for me. And so I'm going to leave that right there.
Cassie and then Shay.
You had mentioned being tough on crime. Do you feel like the DA's office hasn't been doing enough to hold some of these criminals accountable?
I think that more can be done. I think that understanding the caseloads that have either been dismissed or not acted upon in a timely manner, no doubt has had an impact on what happens on the street. Making that connection is key, and it's essential because it's accountability for all of us. And absolutely, when I look at actions of the DA or from the office, I think that we can do better, and I'm willing to work with our DA to do and to be better. I'm also looking for, the city of New Orleans through our budget, and making sure that we are allocating resources where they need to be, and even as we are lifting up the second allocation of the American Rescue Plan dollars, heavily focused on public safety, heavily focusing on a case management system so that all of our systems are talking, but not only talking, but sharing the data associated with it to ensure that we're doing the right things and holding all branches accountable. The New Orleans Police Department definitely needs to be notified in a timely manner when individuals are returning to our streets. That helps us in our deployment strategies because we'll know where those individuals will return in terms of those neighborhoods and community. It also means that we can put a little bit more heat on, meaning presence, pressure, constitutional policing practices, but pressure, so that those individuals know that as they're returning, that we know that they have returned and we know what they've been up to and that we're watching and that we will do whatever it takes to get them and to remove them from the street. So yes, it does require, again, that comprehensive process and collaboration so that everyone is held accountable for making sure that our city is safe. It doesn't happen just by focusing on NOPD. And they always say, you hear this whole thing about insanity, kind of doing the same thing over and over again. Focusing on one aspect of our criminal justice system is a problem. We have to focus on all. And I think with that, and with the support, meaning all stakeholders having the support that they need to just make the sound and solid decision, having the courage that it takes to just make the decision. I think that that's where accountability will start to see the implications of it, and also start to see that individuals really understand that there will be consequences to their actions in the city of New Orleans.
Just kind of a follow-up off of that, do you think that program where you're going to be able to have all of the agencies talking together and more communication is going to make it more transparent to the public as well?
Absolutely, it's transparent to the public, which also gives the public a greater opportunity to advocate for what is needed to ensure that not only we feel safe, but that we are safe and that the measures are sustained over time. And so with this case management system, it makes sense. You know, I was in Seattle talking to Microsoft last month about this case management system, in which they have definitely pledged support, and also just reiterated that our city is on the right track relative to creating these systems of accountability, transparent to the public, but more importantly, transparent to the agencies that are responsible, that need to be held accountable. And that means all of us.
Shay O'Connor, WDSU.
Good morning.
Are you aware of the ongoing issues with Richards disposal, and does the city have plans to end its contract early with Richards if the situation doesn't improve?
Sure. So first, I like your hair. You look cute. And so, yes, the city of New Orleans is keenly aware of the issues and challenges that we have had with Richards disposal. You've heard me talk about it even when we were dealing with Zone 2 for Metro. The city has started to, one, put notice. We have notified Richards in regards to the inadequate collections throughout their zone. We're moving forward and really mirroring somewhat of the process that we engaged upon with Metro. You know, these contracts, or this particular contract, was entered into in 2017 and over a 7-year period. In order for us to address the disparities, I would say, meaning the lack of collections and the adequate pickups, we have to follow the guidelines embedded in that contract. One, issuing notice, the second, issuing default, and the like. We're taking those steps, but also making sure that we wanting to engage as necessary additional service providers so that we can collect the trash on the street. At the end of the day, the residents want the trash picked up. I mean, I get it. I totally understand that. And so because of that, we've already started to take those steps. And I just want to say that I really do apologize for the inconvenience that our residents are experiencing. But we also understand that it is affiliated, whether it's with capacity issues that the contractor is having. But again, at the end of the day, trash needs to be picked up. We have implemented this process before with Zone 2, and we have lessons learned from that, and we're moving forward with really addressing Zone 1.
And just one more question about Mardi Gras and NOPD patrols. Are there any plans to do anything differently than previous years?
Well, you know, every year we really focus on improving our strategies and deployment strategies, and absolutely in this existing climate with capacity issues across the board, not just with the New Orleans Police Department, even with the Louisiana State Police, even as it relates to our federal partners. Everyone is having capacity issues. But with that, we are working together in that collaborative manner to leverage every resource that we have. The city of New Orleans, you know that we were granted Tier 2 rating by the federal government once again. That puts us in the climate of getting additional resources and services from the federal government. But again, capacity is an issue across the board, but it only speaks to our ability to leverage appropriately, and we will continue to do that. And so I'm very confident. I'm very confident that we will, deploy our strategies as we have done in the past, and we will make sure that we have a safe Mardi Gras season. But everything that we need to do in preparation, understand we're taking those steps right now. We never wait. we are always prepared. King's Day is Friday, and we're just wanting to, again, remain in lockstep. Right now, I'm focused on equipment, so that we have adequate equipment on the street. Because, responding to Mardi Gras in our community and in our city does speak to getting trash and debris off the street, every day and night relative to Carnival. So we're having issues with our EMD in terms of capacity, in terms of a lot of openings, in terms of supply chain issues, supplies getting in on time to make timely repairs. And so right now, that's where my focus is, making sure that if we have to rent equipment, we do so, but just that we have the adequate equipment on the street to respond to Carnival as well.
Last few questions, Mike Pearl.
It's not a Carnival question. What is the status of the Endymion starting point and the announcement of their shortened route?
Well, Endymion is going to have its traditional route. And so the New Orleans Police Department, as we get closer to, and as they continue to have their planning meetings, more will be revealed to the public relative to our deployment strategy. Because at the end of the day, the routes have to be aligned with our deployment strategy so that we can keep our residents and our visitors safe. That is the priority during Carnival, public safety. So that public safety will influence our routes.
Do you have another question?
Mayor, how many state troopers are we requesting for the carnival season?
Well, you know what? We request as many as they give, so we don't put a number to it. We say however many, that can be lent to the city of New Orleans, that's what we want. And so what I've learned as we even get closer to these events or activities in our city, things change, from day to day, week to week. And so that also determines how many can be at our disposal. So I do know that Colonel Davis, as well as our governor, no doubt about that, are willing to do whatever it takes to ensure the safety of our residents and our visitors during activities, whether that's Mardi Gras, whether that's Miss Universe, but all of the things that happen in the city of New Orleans. Because not on any given day we have 388,000 people in our city. Although that is the population in terms of census, there's not one day in the city of New Orleans to where we don't have an upward in terms of that 188 and some hundreds of thousands, but we've managed millions in our city that have to be factored in, when data is being used to determine how many we have on the street or what's our crime trends or data trends. You have to really be honest about how many people are in our city any given day, and it's definitely not that 388. It's more than that.
Yeah, Mayor, right before Christmas, there were some rumors going around. Did you ask former Chief Ferguson or current Chief Woodfork to return Officer Jeffrey Bappy to our security detail?
No, what I did was making sure that the investigation is moving, and it needs to, and I believe that it will be coming to a close. But it's about fairness, it's about process, and making sure that we're doing the right thing. And definitely not wanting any of that to be caught up in any changes.
Last couple of questions, Cassie and Shay.
Yes,
Deputy issue.
the Office of Inspector General is investigating city workers committing time fraud and payroll fraud. A source told me a few officers are involved in that list. Have you heard anything about it, and what can the city do to make sure that, money's not being overpaid to people? Sure, well, accountability, right? I believe that we have the internal controls in place. You can always do better, and if there's areas that we need to shore up and do better, absolutely. I do not have any intel from you said the Attorney General? No. Or the OIG? I don't have any intel from the OIG about what he's investigating relative to payroll. You said payroll fraud in the city of New Orleans. I don't have any intel on that. But what I do know, if there are things that we need to do better, we will do. But there's nothing that's resonated to me that there's an issue.
Any more questions?
Okay. Well, thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your week. And let's do all that we can collectively to keep our city and make our city safe. Thank you.
Thank